Thank you, Chair. Mr Draper, on the 19th of January the caravan was found. On the 29th of January it was made public, and 21 days after that anti-free speech laws were introduced into this parliament and ran through 2 days later. When did a conversation begin that we need new laws to suppress free speech as a response to this caravan incident?
Well, firstly, I don't know.
Can I just take a point of order about just so that the witness is not seen to be consenting to agreeing to the language ran through the parliament. I mean,
okay.
that was a political statement. That's
passed through the parliament. Okay. Well,
but we're talking about straight up questions to provide witnesses to be able to act.
Those laws were passed in 2 days. It was ran through the
well,
parliament.
order.
Mr. Donnelly. Perhaps you just rephrase it and say pass through this parliament.
Thank you, Chair. Those laws were introduced on 21 days later, and they were passed in 2 days, which is quite quick in my view. But the key question is, when did a conversation begin? We need new laws to suppress free speech in response to the caravan incident.
Well, firstly, I don't necessarily accept the characterisation of those laws, but the truth is I don't know. I wasn't deeply involved in that process.
Would Ms Draper or Ms Boyd have any idea of when that conversation began?
Yes, I can assist. December was the first record we have of briefing on that suite of legislation that you're referring to. Yes.
Right. Okay. Would you say that the caravan incident accelerated that discussion?
No, I would not.
And do we know who it was who actually first proposed it?
To the best of my recollection, we were asked for advice following 7 October and in the context of an escalating spate of anti-Semitic incidents around the law reform response to help address this issue, and that occurred in late 2024. The caravan incident was not a feature of that request.
Right. So you don't think that the caravan incident played any role in these laws being proposed?
I would just refer you back to the debate and the second reading speech and other extraneous materials that accompany those bills that go to the policy rationale for those bills.
But am I correct in thinking the second read speech would have been around the 18th of February?
I can take that on notice.
11th of February.
Okay. Now, we all agree that free speech is a paramount civic right. Do we agree that there needs to be extra caution taken around proposing bills where we are obviously restricting free speech?
Point of order.
Yes.
It seems to me, just to be clear, because I think this may be the start of a sequence, I'm presuming this, that this seems to be now moving into the area of policy. Now, we have obviously executive, and we have obviously, though, ministers and cabinet. Matters of policy fall to the latter. So I'm anticipating, I think reasonably, the line of questioning from the member. So I'm just, in a sense, getting ahead of it and making the point that matters to do with policy, government policy, which lead to the formation of legislation, is a matter for the government.
Right. A couple of things. First of all, you said you're assuming, and we all know we should never assume where anything's going, particularly in this building. Secondly, they are very experienced witnesses appearing before us today, and they will be and should be afforded procedural fairness, and I made that statement at the very start. Mr Ruddock has asked what I believe is a pertinent and reasonable question, asking Ms Boyd for her opinion. I'm sure that she is capable of answering it in any way that she sees fit to answer it. So the question is allowed. Continue on.
Thank you, Chair. Mr Draper, you did just answer Sue Higginson, and you said that you did not realise that it was a criminal con job, that in the words of the Australian Federal Police, until they went public with that on the 10th of March. Correct?
Correct.
Now, you've heard of a newspaper called the Sydney Morning Herald. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, on the 17th of February, the day before these bills were introduced, the Sydney Morning Herald, a very well-known paper, I'm guessing you read it every day, I'm guessing you read this article. On the 17th of February, the Sydney Morning Herald reported, New South Wales Police, from the outset, also said that there were puzzling elements to the case and raised the possibility it was a setup by criminals to negotiate jail time.
Puzzling, possibility. They're the two key words there.
Okay, so, but I mean, it was in, and look, Anthony D'Adam, the Honourable Anthony D'Adam, spoke in Parliament. He voted for these laws, but he spoke against it. He quoted the Sydney Morning Herald, so I think it was well known that there was murky details around these laws. But you're saying that you weren't aware of it until the 10th of March. But I
said no. Well, not that I wasn't aware of the possibility. I think Ms. Higginson's question was about when did I form a conclusion or form a view.
So at that the bills were going to be introduced on the 18th of February. There was already significant public discussion that there's something else going on here. Was there any discussion at that point that maybe we should pause these proposed laws until we have further clarity?
Look, I wasn't involved in the discussions about.
I'm guessing there wasn't any discussion because we just wanted these laws passed.
Point of order.
Can't comment on that.
Now, listen, if the member's got a question, can I suggest through you, Chair, or to you, Chair, to put the question specifically and clearly to the witnesses to enable them to specifically and clearly answer. The way in which you characterise that first question, I would submit, doesn't fall into that category at all, or gets within a bull's roar of that. It's sort of a little bit of a snipe on the way in, a little bit of a colour and movement on the way in. Now that's not fair.
Mr. Donnelly, can I just stop you? There was certainly colour and movement on the way out, and I'm going to uphold your point of order. So you can just be a bit more careful in your questions, Mr.
Okay, so Mr. Draper, my final question is: these laws, are now the law of the land from the middle of February. Now, my understanding is we did have a spate of what we were told were anti-Semitic attacks prior to the Caravan incident being publicised, but the Deputy Police Commissioner told us that 14 of the previous attacks, which all of us were very alarmed over the summer, that every second day there would be a very alarming incident, graffiti, bombings and other things. But since the AFP came out and said that it was a criminal conjob, my understanding is that we haven't had any. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. I certainly think the frequency and intensity of those anti-Semitic attacks, and I think they were anti-Semitic attacks, has certainly fallen away, yeah.
Well, that is good news. Now, do you think that's because the laws were introduced, or do you think that it was because the criminal conjob was exposed?
I really don't. I don't think I've got the capacity or the information to form a view about that.
Well, I've finished my question, but I think clearly it was because the criminal conjob was exposed.
Well, okay,
well, I have finished now, Mr. Donnelly.
No, I've got no choice but to express that that's a statement of opinion. It's not a response to the answer given by the witness.